Well, we've got Claire with us here today, 82 years old, looking amazing.
Oh, well, thank you.
And she's going to share some life advice and wisdom with some questions.
Sure.
You ready to go?
I am.
First question. What is something you wish people appreciated more?
That's an easy one. Especially as you get older, you understand that life is short. I have so many things that I haven't done yet, and I will do. And it's really important because you always think as you're growing up and so on, it seems like you've got forever, right? And all of a sudden, you're losing friends, or you have to think hard. My concentration is always, what am I going to do next?
What's on that list of things that still has to get done?
I don't have a list. I'm just in my head. I'm an artist. I paint. I've mainly just painted for myself. So that's really important to me to have a project like that. I also try to work with the people here. We talk about good ideas for projects. And my husband and I would like to travel some more. We have 2 boys. My oldest son is 60. The next one is 58. So when people say, how old are your children? I say, well, I don't know, they're older than I am now. And in a way, it's true because they have more responsibilities, right? The main responsibility David and I have is each other. Make sure we stay well and we stay engaged in life.
What's on the travel wish list? Where do you want to go?
Well, we booked ourselves. We both had some health issues in the last year, and we're fine now. And we've booked a cruise in the Adriatic.
Okay.
And after that, we'll go directly to our son Daniel, who's a trumpet player, a musician. He teaches in a music school, and he has a number of orchestras that he plays in, big band, jazz, and he's quite well known in Spain. But of course, he doesn't make the sort of 5% that makes a fortune, but he loves what he does, and he's a very good teacher. The kids really enjoy him, and he's got a good sense of humor. So
you're not just visiting one country, you're going to visit a whole
we're
bunch.
going to visit that one country, lots of countries, and then we go to Spain, to Barcelona, where we'll spend time with his family, Danny, and his 2 little kids. Being a musician, you don't earn really a lot of money, so they waited to have children until they were older. So their kids are 13, and I think a girl 13 and a boy who's about 9, I think.
Looking back on life, what advice would you give your younger self?
I don't believe much in advice. For instance, if I were talking to myself, I would say the one lesson that I didn't learn soon enough was to listen to myself. And most people should understand that when things happen, like if you get an illness or you have an accident, you're the person who knows what's happening. And you know pretty much what you need, although you have to take the medical advice given to you by your doctor. And a good example of the sort of thing I mean, I was a rider, a horseback rider. I had horses, and I was just riding, and I was training. My own horses had died, so I was leasing horses. And I had this young horse who was very, quite highly strung, thoroughbred. And I was bringing him along with the help of a man who used to be one of the Olympic trainers. And so I was bringing this young horse along. And on this particular day, he was a bit jumpy, and I had been riding for almost an hour, and my right leg was getting tired. I had broken it earlier, not riding a horse, walking. And this young woman who also rode that horse, but she's a professional rider, and she said to me, because I was doing things in a particular fashion, and she said, you should really do that at maybe a trot, or more sensibly even a lope. So I said, well, to myself, the way I was training this horse was we did everything properly at a walk first. And then as he got relaxed and used to the dressage exercises that you do with a horse, then we'd go on to a trot, and finally we would go on to, not a gallop, but a 3-gaited run. But she said, oh, no, he's fine, you'll be fine. My head was saying, you know what, your right leg's getting tired. And sure enough, that stirrup got loose. And what happens is a horse is kind of like a passenger in an airplane. In other words, the rider's driving, telling him what she wants or he wants to do. And I thought, I don't know, but okay, she's been doing this for a long time. She's younger than I am, but she's professional. So I put him into a canter, and my right leg began to lose its stirrup, simply because it was tired. And as soon as that happened, you know, your seat is not secure. Okay. And the horse feels that. And he thinks, oh, no, I mean, she's in charge. And he got nervous. And he began to gallop a little bit. And I lost that stirrup. And I thought, okay, I'm coming off whether I want to or not, so I'll make the choice, which is what you really should do. So I shifted my weight and I got my reins where I wanted them. And unfortunately, I curled my back like this as I went down, and I hit the floor, middle of my back, and I broke my back. So what's the lesson there? The lesson is, I was thinking when she said, go, you know, try him at a canter, it's much smoother. And I thought, no, this horse isn't ready for that yet. We do everything at each. But I thought, she probably knows better. Big mistake. Big mistake.
How do you develop the discernment to know when to listen to the voice in your head versus the experts who know what they're doing?
I think what I'd like to say to my younger self is, you know more than you think you do, always. And if you're not sure, don't do it. Whatever. It doesn't have to be riding, it can be anything. And it's important, I'm sure you as an interviewer, you know when if things are not going, they're going sideways on you, and you have to sort of listen to yourself, like, okay, stay calm, just, you know, take charge again and take it forward. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I would say to myself, yeah, you've been around the block a few times, you know a thing or two, listen to yourself first. Today, it's different, because the young people today, I think, show evidence of feeling very entitled. Okay? When I was a little girl, if I wanted a bicycle, I had to earn half the money. And that kind of thing. We were not entitled to anything, because the first thing was the family looking after itself. So that, I think, for young people, I would say you're not entitled to much. You're entitled to love and attention from your parents, but you're not entitled to expensive things that you think you want, or permission to be out late. You have to get permission if you're a kid today, right?
What's the best lesson you learned from the horses?
Well, I really think listening to myself, and also when I had my own horses, there's a rapport that you have with your horse, because you've trained him or her, and you know, I used to show him, but not in big competitions. I just showed for fun and rode him for fun. And I learned to listen to the horse. If he's getting nervous, you know it because of his body language. And, you know, your job, as I said before, you're the pilot, so you reassure him. If I'm nervous, how does he feel? That's really what upsets. And I bet you that's true with your kids, too. You know, if your kids see a calm mom in a situation and she's in charge, the child relaxes a bit more and things go along better. So I think I learned that. And I've always had a really easy rapport with animals and also with children. And I think that's perhaps because I was listening to them. Because you really have to listen in life. And you have to listen beyond the words that are coming out of somebody's mouth. If somebody's angry or there's an issue, you should take a deep breath and think for a minute, like, what's the matter? Maybe he's scared, or maybe I've offended him in a way that I don't know, or her. And so it's really important to listen with more than just your ears. You've got to listen with your mind. I had a television program with CBC when I was much younger, and that was the best thing to learn when you're interviewing someone, is to get a feeling of what they're trying to say.
Did you have a favorite question when you were interviewing?
No, because it always depends on the person. And you have to follow that person. You know, there's always a joke that journalists like to say, you know, you're doing an interview and you've got your sets of questions, but you've also got to have your mind working at the same time. So if you're in the middle of an interview and there's a fire or there's something alarming, the worst thing you can do...
Hopefully there's no fire that happens while we're in the middle of this interview.
We're safe here. We're safe here. But you have to go with it, right? You can't just keep on asking the same old dull questions.
Yeah. Well, this is a fun one. What's something you used to think mattered a lot but realized wasn't important as you got older?
Well, there's lots of things, I think. You know, I suppose when we're younger, women especially pay more attention. I still pay attention to how I look. But as a young person, you really are almost obsessed. When I was a kid, I was very worried because I have a bump in my nose. And when I was a young girl, 14, 15, I thought, I mustn't let them take my picture from over there because I've got this horrible bump in my nose. How you look is not as important as you think. Because what you project, I think, in your face is how you feel. And if you're interested in the person you're talking to, things go better, always. And you have to listen carefully with your mind as well as your ears.
What's your secret for a long, happy, fulfilled life?
Now, there's a new book. I don't know if you've seen it. Well, it's not that new, but a couple of years old. It's called The End of Old Age. And it's not death. This is a gerontologist who says the people who live the longest are the ones who enjoy life, who have a project. Maybe they're interested in art, or they're interested in music, or they're interested in people. People who stay engaged as they get old. Forget about the number of years you're going to live. Because we can't tell that. I mean, we may take good care of ourselves and get really obsessed with that. And this guy says, don't be so obsessed with that stuff, Think about, what are you going to do next? And that's something I certainly ask myself a lot. Oh, here we are. We're in a senior's residence. And it's something that all of us, I think hard about. Do you really want to live in a community of only older people? But of course you can stay engaged with lots of other people at the same time. And it's important to have a kind of a plan, like what next? That's what I think is important. And I think people who are looking for, what meaning of life, purposes, they don't have to be grand, important projects. But I want my kids to know I love them and I support them in what they do. But I'm not a helicopter mom, never was. We have one fellow in Barcelona who's a musician, who teaches, and who is also, he's quite well known over there as a trumpeter. And my other son is also musical, but he said, no, I'm not going to be a musician, I want a life. Because, musicians are limited. They don't have opportunity to become really famous and wealthy. Now, Dan and Laia, his wife, are both professional musicians, and they've done all right. They have 2 little kids, though, 13 and 9. My other son said, no, I'm not going to be a musician. I want to have a life. David and I always laugh and say, well, we're not sure exactly what he does, but he prepares businesses, mainly in television and cable programs, but big ones, and he prepares them for takeover, either by another person or go public. And he loves what he does. And the funny thing was, he never liked math when he was in school. And here he is working on this company and how much money it's making, and is it growing, is it a good company? And he prepares the company and the employees for takeover. Like, he hasn't very often stayed with the company. That usually means the end of that particular job, right? But he's always got a lineup of people because he's good at what he does and he loves it. And the fact, and he reports directly to the CFO and the CEO, so he's fairly high up in it. But he's also a people person. And I think a lot of people who are in financial business jobs are more obsessed with money. What's the bottom line? What are we going to do? He has to know that, but he also has to be able to relate to the employees. And, and he loves what he does. And so far, at 58, he's usually, I don't want to jinx him, but he's usually got a job waiting somewhere. He's never worried about it.
For someone who is struggling to listen to their heart and find the courage to do it, because they might have a story, like, I'm bad at math, so I can't be good in business, or
Exactly.
I'm an artist, so I'll never make money, and then they never chase their dreams down, but they know it's in them. What advice would you have for them?
I'd say forget your idea of what success is going to be. If you engage in whatever it is your position or your job is, and you really put your heart in it, you like it, and you have a goal in your own mind, like, I would like to when I'm interviewing this person, I would like to help them identify what is it that makes you tick? What's your hope? But I'd say stop worrying so much about success and follow your heart. Like, too many parents and other people in kids' lives or older people's lives say, oh, don't do that. If you do that, blah, blah, blah. Like, don't be an artist. Don't be a musician. I never said to either of my kids who had the talent and the ability to be professional musicians, I never said, no, you can't do that because you'll never earn enough money, blah, blah, blah. No, I helped them find teachers, and, they've done well, both of them. Danny's a great teacher, and he mentors all his students really well. He taught hockey. Can you imagine? He was a coach of a hockey team in Barcelona when he first went over there, aside from playing the trumpet. So change your idea of a goal and do your best at what you're doing. And for instance, if we do this and you're doing what you want to do, you're trying to find little nuggets that might be helpful to people as they grow up or as they grow into their career. That's what's important. Finding something that you're doing that you feel is meaningful.
You mentioned success. What does success mean to you, and do you think you've had a successful life?
So far, it's not over yet,
True.
I may be older, but I'm not dead yet. So what's important? To be happy in what I'm doing. If you don't like your job or your position in a company, quit. You've got to take risks in order to proceed. And I think our ideas of success are too limited. Like, perhaps I do an interview or something, and I think, oh, that went really well, and that's happy, that's success. And so you have to learn to listen to yourself and realize what makes you happy is often the success. And also to be learning as you go. Everybody makes mistakes, but no mistake is without a solution, if you want, or a way of changing, especially as an artist or a musician or doing an interview. If you feel, oh, gee, that was really awful, I hate that, I'm sorry I did such and such, then you play it back to yourself, oh, that's not so bad. Like, quite often we judge a thing wrongly, and you have to give it time and say, why, that was really important. Maybe what we do sometimes is important to another person. In other words, I always mentored people, no matter what job I had, or and it doesn't mean giving them advice, because I think you really shouldn't be too free with advice, because it has to be so particular to the person. And the most useful advice is to tell them, take a deep breath, and be serious about what you want to achieve in whatever it is you're doing. And sometimes something you think has been a disaster is a real success. Maybe you touched something in a person and gave them some confidence or some reassurance, and you didn't even know you did it. And for me, that's the biggest success. If you can be seen as, well, I think of it as a loving thing. I think I'm a loving person. I have good friends, and my kids are secure, and I have a great husband. Those are successes. So be careful what you're counting as a failure or a success, because you can be dead wrong, you know.
How about some relationship advice for a long, happy marriage? You've got your husband David with us. He's off camera, but joined in. What advice do you have people who want to have a long, happy relationship?
You have to invest in it, not money necessarily, although that doesn't hurt. You have to invest attention, listen, and listen to more than the words. Like maybe if you're having a quarrel and you're really mad and you're saying things you don't really mean, because we all do that when we're fighting or disagreeing, take a breath and remember the good parts of that person or relationship and back off. But the important thing is to listen, not just with your ears, but with your mind. And it doesn't go for just your husband or your romantic relationships, but your relationships at work, at home, with friends. They all require a person who will listen and try to understand what the person is saying.
As we wrap up, is there a final message or final story that you want to share that you think people could use right now?
Right now that's a very good thing to add, because we are living through a difficult time, humanity really, not just you and me. And I think it's very easy to feel in this situation, the whole world. I mean, look at all the countries in Europe, they're all struggling. We have to remember that although we don't have a huge role to play in our positions in life, but we have to do the best we can and pay attention to the people around you and keep things in a way scaled down instead of getting frantically upset about the direction politics, for instance, is taking. We can't control that more than voting and participating in whatever way you're capable of, volunteering or contributing what you think is important to that party. And I think that's all. And never forget the most important thing is the fact of loving people, enjoying their company, or paying attention to how people are. Can't think of much else.
That's great. Thank you for bringing love here and giving your attention too. Appreciate you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
To see another amazing interview in our Elder series and get more life advice and wisdom, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
All right, we've got Anne with us here today, 90 years old, going to share some of her life wisdom and advice. You ready, Anne?
Yes,
What is something you wish people appreciated more?
their contribution.